The base is dropped on a Friday edition of Soccer Down Here. I feel somewhat alive. Not all the way. Maybe half zombie, but getting there. Maybe this den of sickness will finally leave all of us. John's still coughing up lungs, I think.
Correct.
Yeah. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to keep my lungs intact. Jarrett's probably still completely fine.
Yeah, really?
Oh, yeah. Doing real well, actually. Feeling good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Welcome to Soccer Down Here, Friday, Flashback Friday edition. We put a question out on Twitter this morning and would love to get feedback from y'all. Your Mount Rushmore of favorite players as a fan. Not best, not the best players ever. We're not going to create arguments like that. This is the holiday season. We just want to know who your favorite players are, your favorite 4 players from your lifetime as a fan of the game, and we'll share ours later in the show too. So we'll be taking those throughout the morning. We'll talk about them throughout the show. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Use the Friday flashback or Flashback Friday. I keep mixing it up. Flashback Friday. Let's use that.
Flashback
hashtag.
Friday.
Yeah, Flashback Friday. Let's keep using that hashtag. All right. There's stuff going on in the silly season, lots of stuff, and it really started last night when I saw a tweet and shared it with Jarrett and John, and I think John was probably trying to keep his lungs intact, and Jarrett and I were just like, what in the world is going on? Patrick Meehan Nader of BN Sports in Miami tweeted out that Carlos Puyol, Barcelona legend, is Atlanta's top choice for manager. Nader is somebody that has been with BN for a little while. I've followed him for a while. Not a massive name in terms of breaking this type of news, but it's out there. And it's spread like wildfire. He's taken his coaching courses. He has not been a manager yet. He has taken English classes in the United States. He did play for Tata Martino in his last season at Barcelona when he retired. It's quite interesting, and it was a name that nobody had mentioned, talked about, thought of, dreamed of, any of these things. He would not have been on any list that anyone had up until the time this tweet went out. Jarrett, what do you think about this? Just what's your initial reaction?
Yeah, my brain's still kind of locked up. So I don't know. It's just, I've kind of vapor locked a bit here, where I don't really know what to think about it, because it's crazy, but it's not that crazy. There's the connection there that Tata, he was rounding out his career the year Tata was at Barcelona. There's a connection there. They've probably kept touch.
It's a slim connection, but
it's a slim connection, but it does exist.
Sure.
And if he's done courses, he wouldn't be the first former really, really good player, great player, really. Let's not even cut it short, to get into coaching, and you got to start somewhere. And talking about this with someone last night, that it kind of seems like a crazy decision. Yeah, you just want a cup, though. If you ever had any leeway to get a little risky with your decisions, this might be it. And if you wanted to get a little wild and a little daring with this, coming off a cup, it's not a bad time to try it. And if it works, you can just strut on this league for years. Good God, you could strut on this hemisphere for years. It's crazy, but it's not that crazy, and I'm still trying to process it.
You want another connection?
Oh, God, go ahead. Oh, God, no. Pochettino, right?
Yeah, this is from our buddy Joe Patrick over at Dirty South Soccer. One of the managers that Puyol shadowed during his coaching courses with UEFA was Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham.
Oh,
There's another connection for you. John, what was your reaction?
I was sitting there, and the first thing that popped into my head is the MLSian battle of who has the better hair, Almeida or Puyol.
Oh, it's not even close.
And you sit there and you look at it and you're going, okay, this is out of left field, but then there's enough of it for it to be a clean single to center. And you're kind of going, okay. And I'm intrigued by it. And is it legit? And how much legitimacy is there? And really, is this the road? This is a road you're going down. So, it's kind of like the horse on Ren and Stimpy, where he's just kind of on the ground and he's got that one hoof up against his chin. And you're sitting there going, And there's enough of that there. There's enough of that there where you're putting this into that rotation of everybody else that we've been talking about for, X amount of time. But to throw this one into the mix, could you imagine the rubbing off of all of the brain stuff that he has accumulated over all of the years, how he would rub off on the defense for Atlanta United if he was the guy on the touchline? That to me was the biggest intrigue of it all. Just them being able to pick a brain like a Carlos Puyol, to me, that would be absolutely mind-bending.
Yeah, but this is not about just individuals. And I don't think with Puyol it's not about just defense, because remember, this is not going to be a defensive team. That does not fit the DNA of what Atlanta United is. So Puyol also played in the most, exciting, entertaining team that probably most of us have seen in the great Barcelona teams with Pep Guardiola. So he had a bit of a master class during his time with Pep, as well as his final year with Tata Martino and everything that he experienced, before that and his time with the Spanish national team. The guy as a player is one of the most decorated players of all time. One of the questions that keeps popping up, and we'll start with the one on our timeline this morning from Scott Moore. I'm intrigued, but is this really the time for Atlanta United to take this kind of risk? What do you think, John?
To me, there's too much risk there. Just how much experience does he have on the touchline?
He doesn't.
And that's the thing.
Patrick Vieira, how much experience did he have? Coming into this league, how much experience did Patrick Vieira have? He worked with the academy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another one of the best managers in the world. One of the all-time best managers in the world. Not all-time, let's say one of the best managers in the world right now. Diego Simeone. Diego Simeone, people talk about his time at Atletico Madrid. What you forget about is the first full season that he managed. He ended his playing career with Racing in February of 2006 and immediately became the manager. He got them to a good finish, but it was basically like, hey, we're desperate. He was ready to retire. He just stepped in and finished the year out. They did okay. New president comes in. Simeone leaves. Where's he go? He goes to Estudiantes de La Plata. What does he do there? Leads them to their first league title in 23 years, and somehow brought that team back. Go back if you want some fun watching a team. And I had the joy of watching this season play out. I remember watching a lot of it because a lot of the games were on Fox Soccer Channel at the time. Estudiantes de La Plata was dead and buried that league season. Boca Juniors had the league title done under Ricardo Lavolpe. Estudiantes had to win, 6 in a row, 7 in a row, 8 in a row, something ridiculous at the end of the year to force a playoff. Because if things were level on points at the end of the season at that time in Argentina, you had a one-game playoff. They did that. They beat Boca in the playoff. His first full season as a manager, he won a title. He's went on to have a pretty good career. Pep Guardiola had 1 year with Barcelona B. before he stepped over with the first team and won everything in sight. It can be done. It can be done. So the risk part of it, that would be my answer to it, is that there are plenty of examples out there of players who have crossed that line from being a player to a manager and had success. Simeone did it, like the same year that he retired as a player. Puyol has had time to think and study and take his courses and shadow a guy like Pochettino. And he's been a pundit, and he's been a player agent as well. So he's had a time to kind of soak in lots of different things about it. And Jarrett, from playing at Barca and playing with Spain in that era, he's had exposure to some of the best, management, some of the best coaching, period, that you're going to see. That does rub off.
It does, and this is, I don't know, like I said, this is just crazy, and it's crazy, but it's the right amount of crazy. I don't know if he'll be as insane as Simeone. I don't think anyone's as insane. I don't think will ever see a manager. I'm more convinced might actually break out whips on his team as they're defending. But
yeah, I don't think he'll be as defensive either.
Yeah, no, it's because remember, Atlanta's been vocal about, the system is key, and this team was more than just Tata's aggressive approach. That is a culture here at this point. They're not going to. He's not going to get considered if he's not in that same vein.
Yeah, this is going to have to be somebody who, one, I think because of his lack of a track record, man, he's going to have to win that interview. He would have to absolutely win that interview with Darren and Carlos and convince them that he can be the guy. But you're also talking about probably one of the greatest leaders in the world of football. Puyol was the epitome of being a captain. I think it's easy to look at risk and say risk, but there are plenty of stories to show that, turning to someone new can be really beneficial and be really rewarding. The question is going to come down to the usual things at the end of the day. Is he going to acclimate to this league and this competition well? Is he going to, and I don't think, and I know people will bring this up, and this has nothing to do with it. He does not have to understand GAM and TAM and reentry drafts and all that. That's not his job. His job is the manager's job in Atlanta is to prepare the team for the match at hand, prepare the team to win the trophies that they have set out to do. So he will have to prepare the players that he has. He's not going to be going out and managing these things. His time as an agent will help him a little bit, though. That will be beneficial as you look at these things. He'll probably bring some connections to the table that haven't been there before, which is very interesting. It's an intriguing move, but John, isn't this an Atlanta kind of move right now?
Oh, I agree. And I just, with players who turn into managers, there are those times where the player in his head has the vision of how things are, and I want to see how that would translate out, because there are times where you'll have an ex-athlete and he'll be a manager, and his expectation level is, okay, I need the guys to play like me, and then it doesn't translate well when you coach. I'd love to see a level of patience. I want to see how patient he is in getting his thought patterns across. But to your point, it is one of those kind of moves where you sit there and it's like, okay, you've won a championship, and all right, so let's bring in Carlos Puyol as stage two. So, I'm looking at it as profoundly intriguing. That is without substitute. But I want to see. I'd love to see with the interviews. I'd love to be the fly on the wall on there.
But John, I'm gonna question you on one thing here.
Sure.
Who won the last 3 Champions Leagues? What manager did that?
Sorry, I'm just clearing my throat. Yeah, Zidane.
Pretty good player.
And I think he was all right. But I think it took a while for him
Didn't take that long.
No. It took a while for him as a manager to sit there and say, okay, here's my expectation level. Here's how I was as a player. And then having and integrating the patience of not everyone on this 11 is going to be Zidane. That's my point. As Zidane, you want everybody out there, there's always that thing in your head where you sit there and you go, all right, I want everybody, to be the way that I was. And I think it took him a little bit to sit there and say, okay.
John, it didn't. He lost 16 games, period, in 149. He took over in January of 2016, and he won the Champions League at the end of that Champions League campaign. It didn't. What he did, and this is the important part, is Zinedine Zidane knew what his strengths were. He was not going to go out there and be a master tactician. He was probably one of the best man managers that we've seen in quite a while. That's where I would expect Puyol to lean on when he becomes a manager. And if it's not Atlanta, it sounds like it'll be somewhere. It sounds like this is where he wants to go next stage in his career. As a leader, as a captain, this is a guy who let's put him in the Atlanta locker room right now. And let's put him in the locker room at halftime of the Minnesota match, where you have a red card in the first half and you have to find a way back into it. And you also have to deal with Leandro Gonzalez-Pirez, one of your best center backs, who made a big mistake picking up a second yellow. Puyol's going to thrive in that situation because it's not about tactics at that point. It's about rallying the troops. It's about making things simple. And it's also about going over to Gonzalez-Pirez and lifting him up so he's going to be valuable for you next time he's on the field. It's those types of moments that I think Puyol would excel in. But what you have to do in this scenario is you have to have somebody with you who can help you with the tactics, but fit your personality. That's going to be the key. Zidane did a great job of balancing that. He said it, and this was before the final against Liverpool. He said, I'm not the best coach tactically, and I will always say that. And, well, I don't need to say that because you lot say that anyway. What he did was get the best out of the group he had. And he had a great group to work with. But, what more can you ask for? And he's probably the most sought-after guy right now. He can pick his job. That's what I'm saying, and that's when you get to the risk element of it. Yeah, any hire's a risk. The reward of a guy like this is huge. It's bigger than hiring a Turco Mohamed, who has had good success in Mexico, who is on the list for Boca Juniors, but was also just fired in La Liga. There's other managers that have had failures that have been, rumored to be linked to this that have had successes but failures too. Puyol hasn't failed as a manager. He doesn't have that experience, though. But, man, there are success stories of people who did not have that experience and stepped in and thrived in it. And it's a mix of guys. It's a player like Zidane who some would argue is one of the best players of all time. And it's guys like Pep Guardiola, who was great at his position, one of the best ever at his position, not a position that gets as much recognition as a holding midfielder. But Pep Guardiola was a great player. And then there's others. Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho didn't play at any kind of, real level. Great manager. Won lots of stuff. You can laugh about how Manchester United ended, but you can't deny that he's had some of the biggest success of any manager in modern times. So there's no blueprint here. I think that's what I came back to after really thinking on this for a while is there's no blueprint to making the right managerial hire. I generally lean to something new as opposed to somebody who has been through a lot of different jobs and had different failures and successes. And I know you can look at Tata Martino and say, well, what about Tata? it's always going to come down at the end to how they impress the people who are making the decision. And I think Tata reaching out and saying, this is where I want to be and this is why, made a huge impression on Darren Eales, on Carlos Bocanegra, on Arthur Blank, and his background and record and all of these things, led to that hire. And he absolutely thrived in it. We don't know how this started with Puyol. We don't know where the connection is initially. We don't know if this is even legit. But I don't think it's quite as crazy as we might think. It does feel like a big, bold Atlanta move. And it's honestly not, it's a big, bold Atlanta move maybe because of the name being even a little bit bigger. But the Patrick Vieira experience in New York is something you can compare this to. Let's take a break. Love to hear your thoughts on Twitter. Share them with us at Soccer Down Here. We'll get into them on the other side. The rumor that has been making the rounds in the ATL and beyond, Carlos Puyol potentially on the list for manager of Atlanta United. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, December 21st edition. We'll be getting into the Mount Rushmore of your favorite players in a bit. Hang out with us on that. But we're talking a little bit about Senor Puyol from Barcelona and his link to the Atlanta United coaching position. This broke last night on social media. It made the rounds from quite a few people, but it started with Patrick Meehan-Nader, who's based out of Miami with BN Sports, said that Puyol is Atlanta's top choice. He's taken his coaching courses. He has not worked as a manager yet. He has taken English classes as well. There is a Tata Martino link from his last season at Barca when Puyol retired in 2014. That was Tata's season at Barcelona. Also shadowed Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham in 2016 while he was taking his UEFA coaching courses. That's from our buddy Joe Patrick at Dirty South Soccer. There's some stuff here. It still feels completely out of left field, but Tata Martino felt like it was out of left field too back in 2016 when that stuff broke. So let's get into some of the thoughts on the Twitter timeline, how people are feeling about this. Let's see here. I think Thomas Jawin is now wanting to call in, which is always frightening. Hang out for a minute, Jawin. We'll see about this. The Garlic Bread Warlord, Nick Alifi. He chimes in about Zidane and Puyol. He says, Zidane was a control freak as a player. Demanded that players put cheese on pasta during pregame meals. I didn't know that. He put that same level of control into Real's locker room as manager. Everyone knew his quality. Puyol would have that same effect on Atlanta United. That's a really important point here. I think the respect for Tata Martino was massive in the locker room. I don't think Carlos Puyol walking in is going to have any problem earning the respect of the players in the locker room in Atlanta.
ATL UTD fan number 1 says, don't forget Atlanta United took a chance on Carlos Bocanegra without front office experience also. It worked well. If they bring in Puyol, it's okay.
That's a good point. Bocanegra hadn't been retired as a player for very long before he stepped in as the technical director, and yes, it has definitely worked out. Katie Weaver says, if Tata leaves with the majority of his staff and Puyol hasn't coached before, do we have the time for Puyol to assemble a new crew and then gel with the team? That would be a big question. We don't know exactly how things would work with Tata's staff. I mean, they came with him. They outside of Dario Sala and a couple other people more in support roles. They are people who'd worked with Tata for a number of years. Now, doesn't mean all of them would follow him into his next job. That happens where people do decide to stay. But I think most of the coaching staff would probably follow him. Dario Sala would make sense to stay and be a link. Jarrett, we were just talking about this. With Sala's experience in MLS, he would be really valuable to whoever the new manager is if they come in without MLS experience.
Yeah, because you need that Charon to kind of guide you along here, the river guide. And it doesn't have to just be Salah. It doesn't have to be him. It doesn't have to be one person. It needs to be a team. But when you bring in, you're going to need someone with an understanding of the way MLS works, which MLS kind of operates in its own rules. And you've got to have that team to help a new manager understand just the way this league is and just, kind of ground you sometimes. Say, I know you have ambition A, B, and C, but here's the way it works here, either for, transfers, for travel, for weird rules from the Players Association, perhaps. Like, there's just little quirks that if you'll understand and you'll know, can make your life a lot. Right, Gwen?
Yeah, she's excited about it. She was up all night barking about it.
Oh, that's fun. But, I mean, just understand little aspects of this that can make your life much more bearable as a manager in this league, because it is a weird league to kind of get your start in because of all the rules that can get kind of weird with MLS. Not to say that other leagues don't also have their strange rules, but, MLS is just an odd animal in general.
Let me take a couple pieces of this. So I don't know if it has to be a full team with experience in MLS. I think Salah can be that guy who can sit down as you're preparing a plan for, with the first month, for the preseason, for the year, however you do that, and different managers do it differently. And he can bring things to light that are like, Carlos, you did not have to go through the amount of travel in your career. So the training that you guys did at Barcelona is not exactly going to be able to just be replicated here because you didn't fly across 3 time zones for a match. You didn't do that on a regular basis. So you're going to have to prepare those things. You're going to have to prepare for differences in climate, those sorts of things. That's where Dario Sala can be really, really important if he's on the same page. And that has to be something where, if they don't click, then it doesn't work as well. But also Carlos Bocanegra is going to be helpful here. We've seen him be, I don't want to say hands-on, but he has been involved, and I think he has been there as a sounding board whenever Tata Martino and his staff needed it. So you have that. The other side that I would be intrigued by is you would need somebody to be a little bit more of that tactician, because Salah, I don't think filled that role for Tata Martino. I mean, Tata did a lot of that himself, and I think Thielen supported it and maybe helped with different elements. Thielen was a defender in his career, probably did a lot of defensive work with the back line, whereas Tata was more midfield and going forward. So you need somebody who can help with that side of it. And I would assume if you're having these conversations, if you've had conversations, that there is a plan in place. I don't think you're going to hire somebody at this stage who doesn't have a plan to hit the ground running, because they're going to have to. So I would assume that with his connections, he can have a pretty good choice of people he can bring in with him to follow him along on this journey. Because the other side, you talked about MLS being a strange animal, Jarrett. If you're a new manager, I think you can look at MLS as a pretty exciting thing because of the parity in it. And because if you are a new manager, you're not often going to get the Zinedine Zidane gig and start at Real Madrid in the middle of a Champions League campaign. You're going to get a lesser team, and you're going to have to fight your way up. And if you're in some leagues around the world, most leagues around the world, you're not going to really have a chance to win a title. You're not going to be in a position to really do much. It's just fighting for survival. But you come to MLS, especially if you come to Atlanta, you're the favorite going into 2019. And you have an opportunity to do things in the CONCACAF Champions League and potentially a Club World Cup and all of that type of stuff. But you are, not just because it's Atlanta, but because of the structure of MLS, you have potential to be successful straight out of the gates. Because it will be about what you do more than in other leagues. In other leagues, it's about who spends more money. In MLS, because of the rules and because of the way things are set up, I think the manager can have more of an impact. So that would be a great advertisement for Puyol if this is where he wants to go in his career, to come here into a situation where he would be set up for success and do the Patrick Vieira deal. Come here for a couple of years, establish yourself, gain that experience, and then, man, he would have the opportunity to move on anywhere he wanted to. I mean, Puyol could be that guy who comes here and has success and then goes to manage Barcelona. These things can happen. So it's a fascinating thing. And it's, I kept coming back to it because, Jared, I think we kept saying this over and over again. When this popped up, it's crazy, but it's not that crazy. And that's what's so nuts about it, is there is a lot of things that make sense about it that I can understand. So, I don't know. It's a wild ride being an Atlanta United fan, eh?
It is. It's just goofy. This fandom will drive you to drink. This team will drive you insane in really good ways. I mean, it's not torturous like, say, New England, where you've been to a bunch of finals and haven't been able to get the job done. It's just you're always going to just make peace with the fact that you're always going to be locked into some form of silly season that is potentially emotionally crippling.
Yeah, I mean, emotionally crippling's a little harsh. I don't think you're going to have, bad times in silly season on a regular basis. I think it's just chaos.
That's
because
fine.
There's no limitations. I think that's the difference. And that's Atlanta versus Colorado or Minnesota or whoever. Minnesota signed a designated player yesterday. Number 6, who's played as an 8 for FC Copenhagen, Jan Gregus. And yes, I agree with all of the memes that popped up immediately after the signing. They need to have a sponsorship with Grey Goose immediately. Get it done. There you go. But Jan Gregus, 3-year deal, $3 million in transfer fees. 27-year-old from FC Copenhagen. He's a Slovakian international. All sounds good. But that's about as exciting as things are going to get in Minnesota. And then you have this rumor pop up on the other side where it's, what? One of the most decorated players in soccer history is now being talked about as a potential manager for Atlanta United. We thought Tata Martino was a bold hire. This is, wow. I mean, these are things that I don't think the league even thought about or dreamed of 2-3 years ago. That's what's so wild about it. And that is what silly season in Atlanta is all about, is you're not scouring the Scandinavian leagues to see who your team might be linked to. The sky's the limit. It could be anything or anybody. That's what's nuts about it. So Tyler Rice has a good point, John. I want to get your thoughts here. He says he likes Puyol the more he thinks about it. Played for Barca in Spain during a time of dominance and beautiful play. Think he has potential to be a good man manager drawing from his time as a player. He'd demand the back line to keep playing with possession and passing. That's a key. And when you look at fitting into Atlanta United as they currently exist, that's a really important part, because that's something Tata Martino has worked on from day one. That is right up Carlos Puyol's alley.
Yeah, and when you were reading, Tyler, I was skipping ahead toward the tail end, and that last sentence to me is, you underline that one and you sit there and you put the exclamation point there, and that to me would be, I mean, to have someone like a Puyol, I would love to be there just to kind of eavesdrop on coaching, to see how he would take that last sentence that Tyler put out there, to see how he would implement that during a practice session. I want to see the hands. I want to see the words. I want to see the gesticulation was the word I was trying to get out. But yeah, I want to see how that would come out on the practice field.
I mean, it would be so many of the sessions and activities that he went through with Pep Guardiola and with Spain as they built this style of play. You know, not completely brand new, because nothing in soccer truly is. I mean, there's always callbacks to previous eras, and things evolve and change and come back into vogue and all that. But building out of the back and playing in this way in our time, Puyol was at the heart of it, and at the heart of its start. So to be able to bring that and fit into a team, if that's how they want to play. You know, look at Atlanta's evolution, and this is something that Matt Doyle talked about yesterday in his wrap-up of the top teams in MLS and kind of how their year went on. Atlanta evolved, and we could see it with the Darlington Nagbe acquisition last offseason. Atlanta United evolved from a team that had possession but wanted to press and play high up the field to a team that really didn't press as much but wanted more possession and wanted to start attacks from deeper positions. To do that, you got to have a back line that can play. Carlos Puyol would completely understand that and fit straight in to the way Atlanta United finished in 2018 and the way that they wanted to play out of the back and control play in that way. So, going to be very interesting. We'll take more of your thoughts on Twitter after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, December 21st edition. Talking rumors about Carlos Puyol, Barcelona legend, who has now been linked to the Atlanta United job. This is all coming from beIN Sports out of Miami. Patrick Meehan Nader tweeted this out. It says that Puyol is Atlanta's top choice. That's a little different than saying he's about to be hired or, whatever. There's a bunch of different ways you could read into that. The clock is ticking, and I don't think this is a club and front office that wants to leave it late. I think they have done their homework coming in. I think they want to make a decision quickly. So this is going to move fast. Doesn't mean that we're going to hear a lot about it before the hire is made. That wasn't the case with Tata Martino. I remember, and I saw Will Hinton's response that tagged us but was to Nick Alifi and said, this Puyol rumor is complete nonsense. Surely no one believes this. I can walk you through how things went down for me with Tata Martino because I might have tweeted. I don't think I tweeted it. I think I texted that to a good friend of mine when that popped up. A good friend who is Argentine and has connections in the Argentine media. And I said, this can't be right. Like, is there anything to this? And he's like, oh, no, this can't be right. There can't be anything to this. But let me check. And then I got a response later that night, and he said, look, I don't believe it yet, but people are saying that maybe there's something to this. So I don't know. That's kind of how I feel on this one is nothing would really surprise me at this point. Nobody expected Tata Martino when his name popped up, and I don't think there was very long between his name popping up and then being introduced. It was pretty quick. Tito Villalba, same thing. It wasn't all that long before his name popped up and he was signed. Miguel Almiron, same thing. This is not a club that does a lot of their negotiation or interviewing process or creating a short list in the media. They keep things very close to the vest. So this could be smokescreen. This could be nothing. This could mean something's imminent. Who knows? But I don't think it's complete nonsense. I really don't. We went through the potential links. We went through players who have become managers and had success straight away. It does happen. I think that Barcelona era of guys like Puyol, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets when he retires, those guys, I mean, if you're a club looking at management or coaching and you're not looking at those players who took things to another level in a tactical way and learned it from Pep Guardiola, who you could say is the best modern manager going, you'd have to look at it. I think a lot of people have wondered what kind of success these guys could have as managers. And Puyol, to me, is the one who probably makes the most sense as a center back. Maybe Busquets would be the other one. In a role that is not just defined on individual skill and talent and things that are maybe, instinctual and can't be taught. Puyol, I think, worked really hard to be the player that he was. He was the captain. He gets the leadership side. It makes sense in that regard to me that he could be a very successful manager. Whether his managerial career starts in Atlanta, who knows? I don't know. But it's a fascinating thought, and it's one that nobody had thought about until that tweet hit last night, huh?
Five Stripe Daily says, love this idea. Feels like a Darren Eales and Darren Eagles fusion.
I don't know. I don't know about Darren Eagles fusion. Darren Eagles is a little wackier for me.
And just also, again, remember, this could be nothing, and by Monday we could be talking about something else completely. It's just the way it works.
100%. To that end, anybody remember Oscar Romero?
Oscar Romero is... thanks again for Joseph, Oscar, because Oscar Romero took the money, go to China, go get that money, buddy. And Atlanta United signed on loan a little Venezuelan striker named Joseph Martinez. So thanks again, Oscar.
You could even say that Miguel Almiron's arrival was related to Romero not coming, because I don't know if you get both of them, and if you do, Almiron's probably playing a different role because Romero would have been the number 10. I mean, that was one that popped up, was all but done. Chinese team swoops in, throws more money at him, he goes. Get this. The rumors now in Argentina, and Romero is a Paraguayan international, the rumors now are that the player to replace Pity Martinez at River Plate could be Oscar Romero.
Because time's a flat circle.
It's just crazy. It's you never know. You never know in this world. I wish I could remember what piece it was because there were so many things written right after MLS Cup, and I tried to take them all in. I know I missed a few. I think it was a Paul Tenorio piece at The Athletic where he talked about how Paul McDonough spotted, after they'd went to see Romero play in Argentina, spotted Chinese agents or club reps talking to Romero's people in the parking lot and was like, oh, wait a minute, we might have a problem here. And they started to figure other things out. It was a crazy little like one-liner, two-liner bit in the story that I'm like, whoa, that's nuts, because things would have been very different. They could have been great. Romero's a great player. But, yeah, that would have taken things in a completely different era. It's nuts. You never know. You never know in this game.
And let's see. Tafka TLC, going back to Puyol briefly, says, I'm sure Miles is on board for Puyol.
Yeah, I mean, I think any defender would be. The opportunity to play and the opportunity just to pick his brain. I mean, Miles, LGP, Escobar, like any of those guys, the academy guys. I mean, come on, are you kidding? Jeez.
Price Washington,
all-time greats.
Tweeting it or texting it, Scott Donnelly, hey, you up? Will Crane as well. Reaching out, hey guys, what's going on? How we doing today?
Yeah, summer training. Come on, please.
Tafka says every manager has to have a first season. It is risky, but I'm okay with that. If Eels and Carlos think he can do the job, I trust him 100%, and maybe it fits our MO. Atlanta United, comma, maker of stars, exclamation point.
I mean, let's be real about risk. So, who have we talked about so far for this role? Guillermo Barros Schelotto. I think the risk about him has been brought up many, many, many times from various people, and that he had more talent than anybody in Argentina. He didn't win Copa Libertadores. He's not a good enough tactician. People have talked about the risk with him, and this is a guy who has won titles with Lanús and with Boca. He's not just a schlub. This is a guy who has been very successful, but people pointed out all the risks about him. Jorge Sampaoli, another manager, has been very successful, but is also coming off of a very poor World Cup. There was risk about him. Santos decided to leap in and go for it. Gabriel Milito, talked about it with Felipe yesterday. Risk about him because he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he's well regarded. There's risk about anybody. I think the only slam dunk coaching hire right now in the world is Pep Guardiola. I don't think there's another one. Anybody else you can come up with risk about it. Anybody. So there's always going to be risk. There are plenty of clubs and plenty of managers who've had success in this type of scenario. It's absolutely not uncommon.
Since we were speaking of players, Championship Trains asks, y'all talk about Lucas Rodriguez? Do we have rights on him still?
Okay, so this whole thing. Lucas Rodriguez from Estudiantes de La Plata in Argentina. Last year, there was a rumor, and a lot of people have taken it as fact, which I think is a little dangerous. There was a rumor that Atlanta United had paid $1.5 million, $1.7 million for purchase rights on him, but it was only up through last summer's transfer window, or I can't remember what the exact timeline. It might have been through the winter window. It was basically the backup plan if you didn't get Ezequiel Barco. Well, you got Barco, so you didn't go get Lucas Rodriguez. He played with the Estudiantes. Now he is linked to DC United. In Stephen Goff's report at the Washington Post, he said, I believe his wording was apparently, Atlanta United has his MLS discovery rights. The only thing you're getting for discovery rights is like $50,000 in GAM or maybe $75,000 in GAM. If you pull $100,000 in GAM, okay, great. You're not going to go get Lucas Rodriguez. It doesn't sound like it. Looks like the numbers would not make sense to be able to bring him in at this point. And you kind of have other options that you're looking at. So it doesn't mean anything to you. You're not going to be able to keep those discovery rights forever. There's no value to it. You can grab some allocation money, you take it. The rights on him are not, I think, what people are thinking. You're not going to make a whole bunch of money on this. This is not something to get too worked up about. Cesar Luis Merlo, who is one of the top guys in Argentina in terms of these reports, he says the deal's all but done. It would be a loan, which would essentially be a down payment on a transfer next winter. DC's been trying to do this stuff, which is a little weird in terms of spreading money out. So I'm wondering a little bit why that is, because it's come up with Yamil Assad as well. Loan with a loan, which would be a down payment on the transfer. He's 21 years old. He played with Luciano Acosta. He played for Argentina in the U20 World Cup in 2017. He can play wide. He can play centrally. I think he's a good player. I think he'd be a great fit for DC. If they have a front line of Rooney, Rodriguez, Acosta, Assad, and it's sounding more and more, according to Stephen Goff, like DC, the quote is, considerable progress in its efforts to permanently acquire Yamil Assad. So you could have Zoltan Stieber on the market in MLS, which is a valuable piece, and you could have one of the best attacks in the league if you're DC United, if you get the Assad deal and the Rodriguez deal done.
And then Thomas Q1 says, definitely a different timeline and a very different structural team if Romero had come to Atlanta. Atlanta United would have rolled with Tito or a non-DP at striker. Romero rumor popped up December 13th on DSS after Almiron had been announced December 5th. Got it.
Okay. So now we don't know behind the scenes how things were going. So, yeah, if you had gotten, if the timeline is roughly the timeline that the team was working on behind the scenes, then, yeah, you would have had Romero play as your 10, more than likely. Almiron would have played as an 8 or out wide, which would have been different. Maybe good, maybe bad, we don't know. And you wouldn't have had DP room for Martinez. You would have probably gone in thinking it was going to be Kenwin Jones, which I think was the idea going in to begin with. And then that wouldn't have worked because of injury, and you would have seen Tito up top a lot. So it still could have been really successful. I don't think there's any way to say, like, oh, no, that would have stunk. Like, it still could have been really, really good, but it would have been very different for sure. Let's take the final break of hour number 1. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Finishing up hour number 1 here on Soccer Down Here, December 21st, Friday edition, Flashback Friday. We'll get into the Mount Rushmore of your favorite players as we go in hour number 2. But I wanted to touch on, Nathan Pugh had a tweet at us where he shared an article from the Times in London about Ian Ayre, who is the CEO of Nashville and their MLS effort. He said, Atlanta's already and will definitely continue to be the standard bearer for all expansion teams moving forward and might be the exception that proves the rule of how difficult starting from scratch can be. The bit in the article that jumped out to me, and this is something that I think people need to keep in mind about one of the big benefits of Major League Soccer. Ian Ayre said, the MLS is a very different organization to the Premier League. The support you get is incredible because everyone helps everyone else. It's much more collaborative, primarily because it can be. When you are one of the 20 teams fighting to avoid being 18th, 19th, 20th, you have a different view. It's every man for himself. We are trying to build a league that can compete on a global stage against other leagues. So the attitude is, let's all work together to make it the best we can possibly be. That's really important. And flashback to, Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra and Ann Rodriguez and this front office making a ton of trips to teams all over the league in 2016, learning best practices, learning things that would play well here in Atlanta, learning things that wouldn't. And now we've seen Nashville obviously trying to learn from Atlanta, Cincinnati trying to learn from Atlanta, Miami trying to learn from Atlanta and hiring people from Atlanta to do so. We've even seen Greenville and Chattanooga Red Wolves and other teams come here to try to learn. That collaborative nature has really helped soccer in this country. And I know that, the promotion relegation thing is something that will continue to come up. But I think it will be different in the U.S. because of how successful collaborating has been. And I think some of the things that you see that are not great about soccer in England and in other countries goes back to what Ian Ayre said about every man for himself. Here, you see MLS teams working together for the common good. You see USL organizations, whether you're Championship, League One, League Two, working together for the common good. You're going to see that continue. I don't think that's going to go away. And that's a huge element to why soccer in the U.S. has grown and is continuing to grow. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. That's it for hour number 1. We'll be back hour number 2 on a Flashback Friday after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, December 21st. Flashback Friday. We'll get into your Mount Rushmores of your all-time favorite players in just a bit. Give me a little more time to finish off mine. Usually with these types of lists, like I have a couple that are just stone cold locks and are always going to be there, and the others kind of
cold
fluctuate.
locks.
No, I'm not on that betting show with Rachel Panetta on FS1. I'm not there. But you always have a couple that are just obvious. Yes, they're always on the list for you, and then a couple might move around a little bit. So I gotta get mine down on paper. I'm just buying myself a little more time. Let's get into some of the other bits of the morning. First, the artist formerly known as TLC, I think, sums it up about Puyol. Said, let's look at it this way. I think Puyol has generated the most excitement of any candidate we have discussed. That ain't nothing. That's for sure. I don't think we've had this number of tweets about Schelotto or Gabriel Milito or Sampaoli or anybody else, to be honest. So it's interesting. We'll see. Let's get into some of the other news around the league and rumors and innuendo and such. We talked about Gregus in Minnesota. Feels like they might have spent a little more than what he was worth, and he's played a lot of it as an 8. I wonder if he can be that 6 that they need. I'm a little skeptical, so we'll see. Something I'm not as skeptical about, and I think all of us are on the same page here, Houston Dynamo picked up Tommy McNamara in the second stage of the reentry draft. I think this is a good pick for Houston and a good move for McNamara, John.
Yeah, and to peel back the fourth wall a little bit. Yeah, when Tommy Mac's name came out going to Houston, we were all just kind of, I think I was the one who was in capital letters, but I've always thought that if you give Tommy Mac a good home, that he can do some quality things for you. And I like this pickup for Houston here. I'm thinking that this could be that good home that he's been looking for a little while.
Yeah, for sure. I think he fits what they need, and they get a chance to negotiate a new deal with him. So getting him in the second stage of the reentry draft, you just basically grab his rights and you can set up a deal. So hopefully they can come to terms and get this done, because I think it makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see McNamara in a free role, being creative and playing the way that I think we all think he can play. Just hasn't really been given that opportunity. McNamara, Harry Shipp, there's other guys in those types of roles that feel like creative American players who have not been given an opportunity to be creative players. So hopefully Tommy Mac gets that opportunity in Houston. Jarrett, San Jose Earthquakes made a big signing. Brazilian defensive midfielder Judson, he is brought in on loan from Avaí FC. Interesting one. He's 25 years old. He has played with Avaí FC for a little while here. They were in the second division. He helped them get promoted. They were relegated back. He helped them get promoted back. He stuck it out, and now he's coming to MLS. Intriguing, and defensive midfield is definitely something that they needed to upgrade on, Jarrett. What do you think about your Quakes? He
still might be with Ivy Board at the moment.
He might be. He might be trying to go get a Judson jersey, to be honest. That's what I think he's probably doing.
Yeah, Jesse Fiorinelli says, we identified Judson 6 months ago and felt strongly about signing him after scouting live and meeting with him in person. I think the most valuable input we received was from Matthias himself, who played the position at a high level and understands its importance at the heart of our game. He was looking for a player with distinct qualities, and Judson's ball recovery skills and leadership fit the desired profile, end quote.
Yeah, that holding midfield role is becoming more and more important the way the modern game is shifting. So we'll see if Judson is the answer for San Jose. Rumors around the league. Paul Tenorio tweeted that the Sounders would be acquiring center back Jonathan Campbell in a trade with Chicago. He did pull out of the reentry draft yesterday. Sounded like that was an opportunity for him to be able to pick where he wanted to go. The Fire aren't going to get much from him. I mean, they declined his option. They might get a little bit of allocation money for his rights. They might get a draft pick or something. But Jonathan Campbell was a guy that I felt like deserved more of a chance in Chicago. And if you're Nelson Rodriguez, I think you have to look at this a little strangely, that a center back that you didn't see anything in and let go for nothing, Seattle wants to bring him in. That would make me question decisions a little bit.
And also on the board, I saw that the Galaxy picked up Matt Lampson in the second stage of the draft yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, probably reserve goalkeeper, not really the most exciting thing. I mean, McNamara in the reentry draft could play a good bit for Houston. Lampson's going to be a reserve behind Bingham unless something dramatically changes. So those were your only two pickups in the reentry draft. I think it's time to retire the reentry draft. It can go away.
Yeah.
Rumors out there. We talked about the rumors out of D.C. Chicago is linked to a 20-year-old left wing from Racing in Argentina, Martin Ojeda. He is expected to end up with the Fire. Young hasn't had a lot of experience, only 14 matches in the top flight. It'd be a $200,000 loan. Then the purchase option would be $4 million, and you'd get 75% of his rights. So basically, Racing would have 25% of a future sale that could happen. Feels like a situation where it's a guy who isn't going to get time at Racing. They definitely think something of him. They want to keep 25% of his rights, and a purchase option of $4 million shows that they think he's a player. But it's an opportunity for him to go somewhere and play, because if he's not getting that time at Racing, he needs to play to see what he can truly be. Chicago might benefit from that. I'd be curious to see, how quick he adjusts and how quick he fits into a Chicago team with, Alexander Katai and Nemanja Nikolic and how they all get on, and Jordi Mihailovic, who I think will be pulling the strings as the number 10 next year from day one. Real Salt Lake is appearing to be getting the forward that they've been looking for a while, and one we've talked about, Herman Cano from Independiente Medellin. He posted what some people interpreted as a goodbye video to supporters of Independiente Medellin yesterday. Big-time goal scorer, a player that it didn't look like Medellin wanted to let go. And Cano could be a good goal scorer in this league. It seems like a really good fit, something that RSL didn't really have last year, that just threat up top.
And, when we were talking about who was in and who was out in our initial looks at playoff pictures this week, Real was one of those teams for me that was kind of right there as as you're right on that bubble. And I think that if you get someone like a Cano, and I think that could be one of the pieces that gets you over that line and keeps you in the playoff picture. And instead of having to wait on everything else at the end of the season, I think that this might get you in the door a little sooner than having to wait on everybody else and bite your fingernails right there at the end of it all.
See, I put it the other way. I think they were already a playoff team, and this puts them into a true contender type of situation. This is a group that will continue to get better, I think, with Mike Petke, but also just as the young players continue to improve. So you add in a piece like this to what you already had going forward, I think you're in really good shape. Dallas has been looking for a director of soccer operations for a little while now. Looks like they're going to get one from Grêmio in Brazil. Andre Zanota. He is the current executive director at Grêmio. According to Brazilian media, he is linked to the director of soccer operations job in Dallas. Now, I don't know if this would be the true replacement for Fernando Clavijo, who had to step down for health reasons late last year. Luis Muzzi kind of stepped into that role before he went to Orlando. If it's kind of a new role, if you're dividing things up a little differently, not 100% sure, but that's a big get. I mean, executive director of Gremio. Gremio is a major club in South America. I didn't expect to see that link.
Because I was going to ask, how many times in the past have we seen executive directors from South America come up to MLS for that next step in their career, or for another step in their career? I think this is to me, this is the first time I've seen something like this.
I can't think of another example of it.
And so I think, to me, that speaks more to where MLS is growing and evolving than anything else, that someone like a Zanota would want to come up and be the DSO. And I think that once again, that speaks volumes to where MLS is heading.
A couple other bits of silly season stuff that are popping up this morning. Sebastian Blanco with Portland, he had said some interesting things about River Plate, and he talked about Gallardo and River's success in winning Copa Libertadores, but he said something that was weird, and I didn't really know how to take it. He said he had either interest or a contract on the table from another club, and you could have taken that as, well, he's under contract to Portland. Okay, yeah, cool. He's not going to go to River Plate right now. Now you've got stuff popping up where his agent reveals that there's an offer from Sao Paulo in Brazil. He's wanting more money out of Portland, but sounds like he's willing to potentially go. That would be a huge loss for the Timbers.
And if that does, I mean, that's gonna send them to their thinking caps pretty quick if you lose something like that. Because, I mean, think about all the time that we saw Portland, not just playing Atlanta United, but just in general. And it was Blanco and Valeri. And if you take half of that away, then a lot of folks, it makes it quote unquote easier on defense because you're focusing on Valeri and Abobasi and everybody else. But you lose Blanco and you lose that blender offensively that you have there. I think that would be huge not to have him around. So now I want to see what Portland does in response.
Yeah, I think unless the numbers are just insane, I think you got to do what it takes to keep him. I don't think you can afford to lose him at this point.
Nope.
Another interesting rumor that I had not seen until just a bit ago from L'Equipe in France, Laurent Simon. Remember him? He's ready to return to MLS. His club will let him go for free. Like, he literally just left.
Yes.
If you're LAFC, you have to be a little miffed. I think that's fair to say.
It's putting it mildly.
And it sounds like, according to L'Equipe, his club would let him go for free. He had 9 appearances at Dijon. I thought it was somewhat family related, is why he wanted to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also don't know how much I would be committing to him either. Not after his last year. I mean, this was a guy who, LAFC prioritized, traded a lot to get from Montreal, made him their captain. He nearly made the Belgian World Cup team. He didn't. Then he wanted to leave in the summer and I think really hurt LAFC's chances in the second half of the year. And now he wants to come back to the league? I'd be questioning it a little bit. I would have to think pretty long and hard about that deal if it popped up.
Yeah, that to me is the gigantic red flag of, okay, so dude leaves, you have the big ceremonial goodbye, the emotional video put out by LAFC, supposedly family related, he goes to France. 9 matches later, yeah. No, don't want to touch him. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a strange one. We'll get into some lower division stuff on the other side of the break. Our friends down in Statesboro are making things happen. We'll talk about Darren Van Tassel and South Georgia Tormenta after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, December 21st. We'll be getting into the Friday flashback Friday, whatever order you want to put it in. We'll be getting into that in the next segment. First off, some lower division stuff that has popped up here lately. Couple things real quick before we get to the big news out of Statesboro. Enzo Martinez. Charlotte Independence have brought him back after his season with Colorado. I didn't think he was bad in Colorado by any stretch. I probably would have brought him back for another year. But he goes back to Charlotte. That's a big signing for the Independents, who are really starting to put some things together. I'm intrigued by what's going on in Charlotte with the Independents. Now they have a little more investment, more things popping up. I think they're in a situation where they can be a bigger club in the USL Championship than they have been.
And yeah, I want to see who else they bring in. But yeah, to your point about Enzo, I would have thought that he would have been kept in Colorado with what he did last year. So this one, while it's a bit of a head scratcher from the Colorado standpoint for me, good on him for finding going back to where he once belonged in Charlotte. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Colorado, you do need to get younger, and if that's the MO, then it does make sense. I mean, Enzo's not going to be a 34 starts a season guy in MLS. I don't think he's at that level, but I thought he showed enough to be part of the squad. But if you're going to go young and go do it, and Enzo will go be a star in USL Championship, and I think everybody can win with that. Let's get into the news from Statesboro and Tormenta. John, you had a chance to talk to Darren Van Tassel yesterday. That will be available to our Patreon subscribers after the show. If you're a part of our Patreon, patreon.com/soccerdownhere, you'll get a chance to listen to that before anybody else. It'll be available on all your public podcatchers later, first thing in the morning, actually. So if you want to hear it today, if you want to get that early listen, you'll have to be part of our Patreon. Go subscribe there, por favor. But something that came out after your conversation with Darren was some big news about the complex that they're building.
Yep. Al Hackle, the Statesboro Herald last night. Statesboro city officials got a letter from a regional supermarket chain who intend to build a store as one of the cornerstones of Tormenta Way North, the Tormenta planned soccer stadium. And the letter was basically required to keep that district intact after the end of the calendar year. in an agreement involving city and county and all that kind of stuff.
That's the district's all about taxes, right? I mean, it's all
Yes.
about the tax money flowing in. Okay, got it.
Right. The tax allocation district is the fancy term that is associated with it.
Cool.
And so the city attorney would neither confirm nor deny that one particular chain was going to be that anchor of that the mall area of that tax allocation district. But the city is satisfied with the letter from this regional chain, quoting City Attorney Kane Smith. A regional grocery chain has provided the city an approval letter that they will place a store at the site, and a copy of the approved letter has been forwarded to the school board and county attorneys and to our elected officials. And that's the soccer stadium, the grocery store, 2 hotels, a movie theater, restaurants, and a bank were projected to be a part of this tax allocation district, and parts of an estimated $160 million in private investment. So you've got a lot of stuff going on. Conditions have been met for this tax allocation district. And right now, Tormenta is looking at hopefully breaking ground in at some point after the first of the year, hopefully in January, to get the stadium and everything moving for Tormenta to roll into their own barn for the 2020 season.
That's wild. I mean, this is, we've talked to Darren about it, both online and offline. This is a complex that is bigger than just building a stadium for a soccer team to play in. I mean, it would absolutely provide a spark to Statesboro and to Georgia Southern University and create a lot of jobs and just a lot of economic development outside of soccer for that part of the state. And the soccer team is also going to be part of it and benefit, but also contribute. It really makes a lot of sense when you get down to it.
And you're looking at the road extensions, which would then connect Georgia Southern with their envisioned idea of a southern campus. So that whole district of the stadium and the grocery store and the hotels and all of that stuff that's planned in there is the midpoint of Georgia Southern's planned expansion. So you're looking at something right now that would be on the edge of the property of Georgia Southern University, just across the road, and then expanding everything toward the south when it comes to Statesboro proper. So you're looking at a bunch of different ways for Statesboro to grow with their academic part, with the athletic part, with the retail part. This is coming together, and it could be big for Bullitt County and for Statesboro.
Let's talk a little Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, which you would expect to see South Georgia Tormenta in now that they are a professional team, and all this is still being sorted out for what things look like for 2019. But it's a discussion that I think needs to be had. Magic City Soccer, not that Magic City, Magic City Soccer out of Miami, posted an article talking about the amateur side of it and how the growth on the professional side with adding more teams into the USL Championship, more teams into MLS, more teams into now a USL League One, down the road looking at what a NPSL Pro, where they fit into it. NISA would be a sanctioned professional league, and they would go automatically into the tournament. All that has squeezed amateur teams out of the tournament proper. You had 90-plus amateur teams that applied and were approved to participate in the tournament this year. But you had to have you're having so many playdown rounds before you get them actually into the tournament proper, and you've had to cut the allocation of teams from the PDL and the NPSL and UPSL and all of those teams that get automatic qualifiers, and they can determine them how they want. Some of them do regional tournaments. PDL and NPSL now do it based off last year's performance. It's a situation that I think the tournament really needs to sit and start from scratch on. Look, a couple things about it. We know MLS teams don't want to play a ton of games in the U.S. Open Cup before, getting into the final rounds. They don't want to play in the first round. Completely understandable. in England in the FA Cup, the Premier League teams don't join in the first round. You have rounds where your non-league teams, where your lower division teams come in, and there are some rounds where they have to knock each other out to get to the big boys. That's fine. But I want to see more opportunities where amateur teams don't have to go through 4 rounds, which I think is what it's going to be in 2019, to get in to play a USL League One team or a USL Championship team. I think we all want to see those opportunities where your amateur, your semi-pro, your NPSL pro, your USL League One teams, where they're playing opponents outside of their league. I think that's something we all want. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Figure it out, U.S. Soccer, to where this tournament... I disagreed with Magic City Soccer in saying that it's becoming less open. These teams are in it, but they shouldn't have to play down like against each other so many rounds. If you have 1 round of regional play to play down, maybe 2. If you have that many amateur teams who join that are obviously a step below even PDL and NPSL and UPSL. Okay. 4 rounds of playing down? That seems excessive. Now's your opportunity with the growth on the pro side to re-envision the tournament and what it looks like and to make it work for everybody and make it a bigger deal. I think part of making it a bigger deal is highlighting these early rounds and these matchups that we go nuts about, that we love to see. You know, we were driving back from Atlanta United 2 game last year following updates out of Mississippi about Bria and how they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, we want to see this stuff. Don't make it harder for amateur teams to get in to have a shot at playing a professional team. Make it to where they can handle it, obviously, and if they're going to host, they have to have a stadium that meets some kind of requirements. Sure, these are all normal things. But I think we've always looked at the top end and the final and the semifinals as what grows this tournament. I think this side of it grows the tournament too, and U.S. Soccer really needs to put more thought into what they want the Open Cup to be.
I mean, how many times you mentioned Bria? I mean, the Christos story to me stands out front and center as to the beauty of the Open Cup. And to continue to add steps for a team like a Bria or who was it in Houston that had the run that we talked about last season?
2 different things, and I want to clarify so people understand. Bria is not going through a bunch of steps as part of the PDL. They get in if their PDL season qualified them for the next year's Open Cup. They're not going through steps. It's your Christos. It's your North Texas Rayados. It's your...
Thank you.
Your teams like that are going through a bunch of steps. It's not your PDL or your NPSL teams. There's an opportunity, I think, to broaden how many true amateur teams get in, how many unaffiliated teams get in. Unaffiliated, when I say that, I mean unaffiliated with USL, with NPSL, with UPSL. Get them in. Get more PDL, NPSL, UPSL teams into it. Figure out how to get more of them involved where they have an opportunity to play USL League One, maybe down the road NISA, and USL Championship teams in earlier rounds. Figure out how to do that. Also manage the schedule compression for MLS. And just sit down and think about what this tournament can be. It's time to do that.
And I mean, just for me, I will stipulate that I am a bit of a romantic. And I've always been that guy that sits there and looks at the 1 and the 16 in the NCAA tournament and will cheer for Maryland, Baltimore County like nobody's business. Getting to catch up with Rayados, getting to follow Christos all the way through. That to me is speaking to more of the fabric of the sport here in the country than anything else, and to continue to add steps and add hurdles and roadblocks so they're not a part of something that really speaks to the fabric of the sport on the whole. In the Open Cup, it's called the Open Cup for a reason, or at least it should be called referred to as the Open Cup for a reason. And you're making it less and less open when you do stuff like this.
It is open. Teams are able to sign up for it. Just don't have so many qualifying rounds, and get more of your PDL and NPSL and teams like that in. Like, figure out how to do it, and let's do it, and let's re-envision what this tournament can be. Alongside of it, I think it would be really smart for U.S. Soccer to put more emphasis on a National Amateur Cup. With all of the growth at the amateur level and your Gulf Coast Premier League and leagues like that have popped up, along with your NPSL and UPSL and PDL if they want to do it. PDL is so based on the college season, it's a little harder for them to do. But you have some PDL teams that do it differently. Any amateur team, there is an amateur cup. It's just not really well promoted, or it's not really a big deal. I'd love to see U.S. Soccer emphasize that more for those teams. This is an opportunity now with the growth to really start to look at it, because I completely agree with the thought that MLS and its growth is a big deal for the game in this country. I mean, Yahoo Finance saying that MLS is the sports business of the year. That's a big deal. That's good. But you need the growth on the other side as well, and it's happening. So let's continue to foster that, and the Open Cup is the easiest way to do it. Create more opportunities for small teams to play big teams. And I'm not on board with saying that pro teams have to travel in the first round, any of that. Like, it's a tournament. It's a draw. Do the draw. Do it the way it's supposed to be. Don't manufacture upsets. Don't do those things. Do it as a tournament. You qualify to enter. You qualify. You play. If you have the ability to host, you host. That's it. And make it more rounds. Promote it bigger. It's so much easier to stream games now. Like, do something with ESPN Plus and get these games on ESPN Plus. That'd be amazing. Make it easier for people to watch. Make it easier for people to go nuts about this like we have for so many years. I want to see it grow, and part of that growth is going to be not limiting the number of amateur teams in it. You don't want every amateur team who signs up to get in. No, that just because you sign up on a piece of paper doesn't mean you get to play Atlanta United at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. No, nobody's saying that. But don't go through 4 qualifying rounds to get to the first round where you're going to play another amateur team, and then a second round where you're going to play a USL League One or a USL Championship team. You shouldn't have to go through that many steps to get to that point. Limit the number of steps. Make it a bigger deal. Come on, U.S. Soccer. Do this right, because this is a huge opportunity for the growth of the game if it's constructed the right way. All right, we'll get into the Friday flashback after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star, and Shelter Pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Flashback Friday, Friday Flashback. Put it whatever order you want. Have fun with it. Doesn't matter at this point. It's December 21st. It's the last show of the week. That's where we're at. The Den of Sickness continues. Jason Longshore, yes. John Nelson. Jarrett Smith is dealing with his own Den of Sickness. I did not mean to punish him to the Den of Sickness with Ivy being sick, but I think he is dealing with it now. So, sorry, dude. We apologize. Couple bits of news and questions and things that are out there. Mike Foster _ATL, he asked us a question late last night. Said, so, the Atlanta Silverbacks FC website has been offline for at least as long as I checked a week ago and today. Anyone know if they're done? Copied us and copied our buddy Dave Williamson on it. Dave said, and Dave's done photography for the Silverbacks for a couple of years now, said, I've heard nothing. It's always is it going to happen or not this time of year? Yeah, I haven't heard anything either. I know last year it was a very last-minute thing for them to be back in the NPSL. I'd even heard at one point there was a schedule without them on it, and things were changed at the last minute. I'd heard lots of questions about finances and different things with that. I don't know. I'm not exactly surprised about where things are. I mean, it's always been this going back to the NASL days, but this is a different story, and it's hard to even compare. I mean, it's the same name, but people trying to say that this is the same team or club, it's not. This is honestly the NPSL team that started as Atlanta FC back in 2008. I was there and was running it. I drove vans many times with Atlanta FC. That team joined the NPSL in 2008, partnered with the Silverbacks when they returned to the NASL and became the Silverbacks Reserves. And when the Silverbacks professional team ended, the owner of the Atlanta FC team, which was playing as Atlanta Silverbacks Reserves, gave the club to the Silverbacks. Gave it to Boris, and then Boris Drakunica went on to partner with groups that have been running the Silverbacks in the NPSL ever since. And I don't know how it's run. I don't know if Boris is involved, if he just licenses the name. I don't know. The park is a whole different entity, so that gets complicated too. I don't know. I don't know how things are truly structured or involved. I don't know if they're playing next year. There had been few rumors about them playing in the UPSL. That's possible. There are teams in the UPSL in the Atlanta area. It could happen. There is the NISA team that is linked to Atlanta that nobody knows who's behind it. I don't know if that has anything to do with the Silverbacks, but I wish I had an answer for you, Mike. I don't. I have no idea.
Jim Lepp on the board this morning. He says he read the DSS article on Joseph renegotiations. I'm in the camp that says pay him that $5 to $7 million. Miggy was always different with resale embedded in the deal. Where do you guys see it?
Pay him what it takes. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point in terms of the team and cap and effect on money available. None of that matters because he's already a designated player. So pay him whatever you're comfortable paying him. At this point, it doesn't matter. I think your most expensive player in the league generally has been around $6-7 million. If that's what he wants and that's what you're comfortable paying, have at it. I don't think there's any reason not to do it. All that's important, but the other side is if a transfer offer comes in, what is the number that you would be interested in talking about? And honestly don't know what that number would be. And I don't know how many places Joseph would be interested in going. I really don't think it's a long list. So I just keep him happy. And you got to spend more money to do it. Cool, do it. I don't have a problem with that. Update on Laurent Simon. And this is from Nicolas Martino, who is based out of Montreal. This is in French, so I will translate it for you as best as I can. Nicolas can confirm that the process of terminating Laurent Simon's contract in Dijon is underway. If everything goes as planned, he will be playing in Toronto in 2019.
Huh.
Yeah. Montreal can't be too happy about that. LAFC would probably be pretty ticked off about that. Yeah, that's going to be pretty nuts. Good times.
Huh. Okay.
Hey. Toronto's been linked to Michael Parkhurst and now Laurent Simon. I don't think they're trying to blow things up anytime soon. Those are the types of pieces that'll put you back over the top.
Yeah. Let's see. So do you want to get into Mount Rushmore's?
Yeah, I think it's time. I think we've hit everything else. If you got any other questions for us, throw them our way right now. We'll touch them at the top of the final segment. But Mount Rushmore of your favorite players. That was the Friday Flashback Friday question that we threw out at you this morning. Ricky Ricardo kicked us off. His Mount Rushmore of his favorite players: Cristiano Ronaldo, David Beckham, Joseph Martinez, Landon Donovan. 4 men who are just lethal on the pitch. I like all of those players. I do. Ronaldo would probably be my least favorite out of that group. And it's probably a lot to do with his attitude and off-the-field stuff. But Beckham's always been one of my favorites, and Joseph is ridiculous. And Landon Donovan is somebody that I've always been a big fan of, and I know not everybody is, and people have had their issues with Landy Cakes, which I think was horrible. But Donovan, to me, has had the best career of any American soccer player. Doesn't mean he was the best or most skilled or any of those things. He had the best career. Dempsey was right there with him. Dempsey probably had more moments of just sheer unbelievable magic. But it's hard for me to say that Donovan's not the best ever U.S. men's national team player.
Landy Cakes?
Dude, you follow this game for a long time. You never heard the Landy Cake stuff?
Nope.
Jeez, man, you were never on big soccer. I'll tell you that much. That was the stuff when people questioned and said that he was soft and that he should have, tested himself in Europe and he shouldn't have come back from Bayern Munich and he should have. Then the whole moving from San Jose to Bayern to the Galaxy, that whole bit. That was Leverkusen. Then he went to Bayern at one point. It's all kinds of stuff. It was basically saying that he was soft and never tested himself.
Okay, because I thought you were going down the road of the Reggie bar.
No, don't. I can see where that's going to go, and it's going to go down a whole rabbit hole that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And we're going to stop that there. Because we're not talking about candy bars or cakes. It was just a nickname, and it was stupid then, and it's stupid now. And Landon Donovan is one of the American greatest soccer players, period. So deal with it. And you can play that GIF and the shades that he put on in the Gold Cup 2013 after they were thrown at him, and there you go. That would be my response to you.
Fair enough. So then Four-Card Ahmed has Maradona number 10, pre-1991.
Okay.
Messi number 10, the GOAT. Maldini number 3, and Mateus number 10. Also, greatest injustices of all time. Messi and Maldini never won a World Cup, and Mateus never won Champions League.
Yeah, those are all good. The injustices part, yeah. I mean, doesn't look like Messi's going to win a World Cup. Maldini never did it. Just missed out on different times that Italy did. Mateus never won Champions League. I mean, I remember the shots of him on the bench when Bayern blew it against Manchester United when they had the incredible comeback, and I mean, it was painful to watch. And then Mateus went to the Metro Stars, and it was also painful to watch. It was bad. looking at these, and I think it's easy for people to go attacking players, and most people are. I mean, that's what catches your eye. I love that the 4-card threw in Maldini and Mateos into this. I love that the appreciation for Maldini, one of the greatest defenders of all time, Mateos, one of the best central midfielders of all time. I love to see that type of appreciation for not just goal scorers or players who are magic on the ball. Players like Maldini and Mateos don't get appreciated enough.
Nathan Pugh, Gerrard, Fernando Torres, Luis Suarez, Mo Salah, # up the Reds.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of bias there. Just a little, but that's okay. It's your favorite players. There's not a wrong answer here. So I'm surprised that, as a longtime Liverpool fan, that Mo Salah joins that after a short period of time. And Luis Suarez, even with everything that happened with him, I've always wondered how, he is regarded by Liverpool fans after all of that. Steven Gerrard, I mean, if you're a Liverpool fan in the modern era, he's obviously there for you. And Torres was magic when he went to Liverpool. I'm trying to think of other Liverpool players that I would include on a Liverpool Mount Rushmore, just for me, like not to say that I know Liverpool's history better than anybody. Michael Owen would be there for me on a Liverpool Mount Rushmore. But Owen was also, like, when I was still, like, playing and really falling in love with the game again in the 90s, and Owen was ridiculous when he burst onto the scene. His speed and quickness. Now, if you're going further back, then, yeah, you're going to a Kenny Dalglish and all that. I'm talking about Liverpool people for my Liverpool Mount Rushmore. I didn't get to see Dalglish. I didn't really get to see that era. It's not something I had access to, so... Owen would be there. You want to go for somebody who's not as appreciated as maybe they could be? Sami Hyypiä, another big-time Liverpool player who was a big part of those, 90s and early 2000s successes. Yeah, but I'm a little surprised, Nathan, and I'm not knocking you at all. Suarez, I think, would be an interesting question for Liverpool fans and how they regard him, and Mo Salah after not a long period of time there. I think it just shows how beloved he is in Liverpool at this point.
Let's see. Tafka, Miggy the smile, Ronaldinho the flair, Messi the skill, Pulisic the American with skill. Weird, I know.
Hey, that's cool. Pulisic, there's still a lot to see on what he turns into, and his next move is going to be critical to that. I hope he goes somewhere that he's appreciated and he plays. Ronaldinho is a great shout. I mean, God, that guy was just a blast to watch. He partied his way prematurely out of the spotlight, but Ronaldinho at his best was just doing things that didn't even look physically possible. And Miggy, I think in Atlanta, obviously, he's going to be that for a lot of people. I'm fascinated to see what his next move is and where he ends up and how it goes down and how he's regarded. Pulisic and Miguel Almiron are in very similar situations right now.
Shiva agrees with Ricky Ricardo, but would add Gareth Bale. The guy scores beautiful goals.
Bale's a blast. Yeah, Bale's a blast to watch. If he could just stay healthy,
yeah,
he is a load of fun to watch. His speed is just ridiculous, and when he's had his moments, they're breathtaking. The Champions League goals, the games for Tottenham against Inter Milan. I mean, so much of Gareth Bale, it just blows your mind. But for him, I think it's just been staying healthy. And is he going to stay at Real Madrid? There's always been the talk about him going back to play in the Premier League. Is that going to happen? Be curious to see it. Let's take a break here. If you have Mount Rushmores you want to send us, go ahead and do that. We'll give you ours in the final segment. And any other final questions, send them our way now. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Final segment, Soccer Down Here. December 21st, silly season, fully underway. Carlos Pujols being linked to managerial jobs in Atlanta, Georgia. Laurent Simon is leaving Belgium, or leaving France immediately after 9 games, and now might end up in Toronto. The Tifos out of Montreal could be quite interesting if that goes down. Lots of other things potentially on the move. Oscar Romero might replace Pity Martinez, and Pity Martinez might come to Atlanta when Oscar Romero was rumored to come to Atlanta in 2016, but went to China instead. And I don't think he really played all that much in China because he got farmed out, and it just blah, 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 blah. And Lucas Rodriguez, who was also linked to Atlanta at one time, could end up in D.C. and playing next to Yamil Assad. Yay, silly season. That's basically where we're at. So, what we ask, though, on a Friday flashback Friday, however you want to order the hashtag, was your 4 favorite players. Not best in the world. It's not an argument about who's better, who has the right list. Every list is right because it's your favorite 4 players right now, because it could change in 3 months. It could change in 6 months. It could change tomorrow. But we're going through some of the submissions here. What else do we have, John?
Thad Dooley, Roberto Carlos, Fernando Torres, Brian McBride, Thierry Henry.
Oh, Brian McBride. Good shout for Brian McBride. He was always one of my favorites. That's a good one. Yeah, McBride, when I played indoor in 96. Yeah. So it was right after MLS had started. McBride had burst onto the scene in Columbus, one of the best goal scorers in the league that year, and went on to – he was just breaking into the national team. This was back when I had hair and did stupid things with it, which is probably why maybe I don't have much hair now. I did the whole – if you remember Brian McBride at that time, he had the kind of longer hair from the top down, and it was cut short underneath. So I had that going for a while, and what he did, it happened. I was stupid. Things happened. It's not that big of a deal, jeez. But what he
just
did
the mental image
was basically like a little hair tie or something around to keep it from getting in his eyes. So I did that playing indoor, and I was really sick of it and made a bet with my team that if I scored a hat trick, I was going to shave my head, and I did. So I was tired of it. So I think that's why I was motivated to shave my head, to score a hat trick, because I wanted to shave my head.
What's to say that your teammates didn't allow you to score said hat trick to shave your head?
Well, the other team has to be involved, John. Last time I checked, your teammates don't decide if you score a hat trick. There is this thing called the opposition.
Nah, they were in on it too.
No, trust me, they weren't. I think they kicked me all over the field.
Kepsi, some of the players whose virtues I've extolled countless times: Batistuta, Nengolan, Ali Moreno, and Nesta.
That's a cool list. Batistuta, yes, definitely. Great Argentine goal scorers. And that's a cool list. I like it because it's very diverse. And that's... It's always interesting when we have these lists because you get kind of a glimpse of how people have soaked in the game. Because, if it's a list of, like, Liverpool, okay, obviously that's your touchstone. If it's a list of Argentine players, that's your touchstone. But to see, like, Ale Moreno in that list, that's cool. I mean, he's one of the greatest goal scorers in MLS history. So I love that diversity in it. That's really cool to me.
Thomas Gwynn says it's very U.S.-centric. DMB, Keller, Reyna, and Deuce.
Okay. Beasley, yeah, for sure. Casey Keller, one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. Dempsey, was just awesome. But again, that's your touchstone. That's where your favorites come from. That's how you view the game. That's the thing about the sport is... I think for American sports, obviously, like your touchstone might be the Green Bay Packers as opposed to the Atlanta Falcons, but it's still players in this league. With soccer, it can be from a league halfway across the world. It can be from a variety of leagues around the world, also with American players. It's really cool to see that. I love that mix. But that's what's cool about this game is you can learn it in so many different ways.
Host of soccer over there, Nick Alifi, Maldini, the Brazilian Ronaldo, Zidane, and Cannavaro.
I can't believe you put Cannavaro in after all of our Cannavaro conversations about Player of the Year in 2006. That's funny. Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, yes. That guy, when he was at his peak, good grief. The mix of power and speed, I don't know if we've ever seen it. I don't know if we ever will again. Maldini, yeah, absolutely, and Zidane, for sure. Cool. The Brazilian Ronaldo, I think that's the first shout we've had for him. That's good.
Soccer for Good OG Jill Robbins says, I can't believe Pele hasn't been mentioned. Along with him, Mia Hamm, Beckham, and Messi for impact on the game, the culture, and their legacy. It was really hard to choose her second Rushmore, Zidane, Edgar Davids, Cantona, and Cruyff.
Building a second mountain next to it because there's just so many people. Yeah, I'm honestly surprised we got through this far and Pelé hadn't been mentioned yet. And Mia Hamm. Very cool to see. Beckham and Messi had been linked before. I knew about Cruyff and Davids for Jill, but Zidane and Cantona, that's pretty cool. Like it.
From the Colonel, Morning Colonel, Landy Cakes, and true Swansea guy, the Sigurdsson, Gylfi Sigurdsson, Miola, and Nagbe. Hashtag Mount Rushmore Friday.
Tell me more about Sigurdsson.
Just for me, how he was tremendous and how he can be at Everton occasionally, just how he was on set pieces. Just the artistry from a set piece for me for Sigurdsson is when he's on, it is just a thing of beauty.
Okay. That's fair. All right, let's hear your list.
Valderrama, Pele, Steve Jungle, and Stan Stamenkovic.
Okay, you got to explain the final two because I'm sure people are like turning their head sideways like, what?
Because what I asked you in one of the breaks was, you said soccer Mount Rushmore, does indoor count? And you said yes. And so Steve Jungle and Stan Stamenkovic from the indoor years of the 1980s were two of the most prolific goal scorers the league had. And Steve Jungle, in a 40-game season, I think had 108 goals in 1 year. And to see those two guys just absolutely blow up the major indoor soccer league for me on USA, that was how I watched and just instantly gravitated toward those guys. I had other names if it was outdoor only, but yeah, Valderrama, Pele, Jungle, and Stamenkovic.
Okay. Scott Moore just got one in under the wire. Said Joseph, Pele, Rodney Marsh, and Steve Wegerle. He was a big Rowdies fan as a kid.
There you go. Yeah.
That's cool. Again, yeah, I mean, I think your favorites, some of these would change on a regular basis. Some, would be consistent. I guess for mine, like, I generally look back to, when I was just a fan and who, I loved to watch play. So if you've listened to me talk about soccer, you'd know Diego Maradona's on the list because that was my first soccer hero. So Diego will always be on there, even if he keeps flicking off cameras and giving nonsensical interviews and trying to fight cameramen and all those things. As a player, can't be touched. And I would probably have the caveat that we had earlier about his 1991 and back Diego Maradona. Yeah. So Diego's in there for sure. From an American perspective, John Harkes would be on that for me, and a lot of it's based off the position I played. As I, played in high school and played club and thought about playing in college and all that side of it. I played on the right wing a lot, so that was where Harkes was playing with the national team. He was the first, to me, from an American perspective, that showed that you could go over and play in Europe and be successful. He had the goal of the year in England with Sheffield Wednesday, so that kind of broadened my perspective on soccer in the United States and soccer in America, and now it could fit into a global perspective. So Harkes would be on there for me. My other two. I didn't want to pick, two guys kind of from the same era, so it's really hard to pick between David Beckham and Paul Scholes for me. So I kind of went in a different direction. I went with Eric Cantona because he was such a blast to watch at Manchester United in that era, and especially the time that he came back from karate kicking a Crystal Palace fan who was, by most accounts, abusing him in a very racial kind of way. It was a mess. And that doesn't mean Cantona should be going and karate kicking people, but it did play into it. And when he came back, the magic that he produced on the field, oh my God. Some of the goals, and I'll always go back to the one where he gets at the top of the 18, maybe 20 yards from goal, and he chips it off the inside of the post in the upper 90. You almost couldn't throw the ball there from 5 yards away and make it any better. And he just stops and turns and puts his arms out I'm really good. Just give me all the applause.
Are you not entertained?
It's just that goal for me is one of those that I'll always just sit there and be like, wow. And number 4, this is a tough one. I'm trying to think. Who else really, really influenced me in that way? And, again, you're getting to a lot of goal scorers and people that grab your attention, and that's, I think, the easy thing. I keep coming back to it. A player like Thomas Dooley, who was very versatile and came over to play for the U.S. and then played in MLS, and a guy that I'm a little surprised hasn't been involved in some way in coaching or whatever in Major League Soccer. But Dooley, to me, had a class that was just a little different and an elegance. And, I didn't grow up on the Italian game. I didn't grow up on the Bundesliga. I didn't grow up on players on La Liga. I didn't grow up on players who played like that. And Dooley just had a bit of an elegance to him and smoothness that you didn't see. It was really cool to see that and to see that, okay, you can play the game this way. That was different for me as a kid. That's one of those that you probably, depending on what day you catch me and what mood I'm in, the final two might shift around. But Maradona and Harkes were kind of my big two touchstones as a kid growing up.
Yeah, for me, if we were going to go strictly outdoor, I had Miola on the list. I had Karl-Heinz Granitza on the list. I had Andres Escobar on the list. So there is room for a second floor for my Mount Rushmore.
All right, we're already in stoppage time. We got a couple more questions, so we'll go ahead and hit them real quick. Rock the Brock G, which is a great Twitter name, by the way. Brock on Twitter. Interested to hear Longshoe's thoughts on Minnesota's third designated player signing. Not really a head-turner. Couldn't they have signed him with Tam? I think you were reading my messages, Brock, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, you look at his pedigree and you look at where he's valued, and Transfermarkt is not always, 100% accurate, but this is a guy that hadn't been sold for more than $1 million in his career, valued a little bit more than $1 million, with a club in Copenhagen that plays in the Champions League and plays in Europa League and, is well regarded. But I'm a little surprised that, according to the reports, it took $3 million to get him and to get him on a 3-year deal. It feels like they overspent. And if that was what it took to get him, I would have been thinking a little more along the lines that I could have found somebody cheaper that could have produced in the same way. I might have turned away from that deal if that's where the costs were going. We'll see if the performance is there, but feels like a heavy price, though, for Grey Goose.
And then Thomas Gawain says, okay, it's completely necessary to add a women's mountain too.
Good call.
Number one, Sun Wen. Number 2, Homare Sawa. He's got HAO and KO and Kelly O'Hara in there. Number 5, Becky Sauerbrunn. He says, yes, I cheated with 5. Love the creativity from the first 2, the combo of heart and skill of 3 and 4, and the tactical brilliance of 5.
Well, it's completely cheating because it's 5. So
that's what I'm saying.
Marks are
it's a metric
against
Mount Rushmore.
Marks are completely against you, Thomas. But I do like the idea. So my 4 there would be Mia Hamm, Cindy Parlow, Brianna Scurry, and obviously I've watched more of the U.S. women's national team than anybody else. I'd be really tempted to put Marta on there just because she was absurd at her peak. Dove too much as she got older, and not a fan of that. But, yeah, I think at her peak she would be in there for me. So I'd go Scurry, Marta, Hamm, and Cindy Parlow, who is one of my all-time favorites and is very underrated in terms of her overall career.
Yeah, and I like the recognition though of Sun Wen and Homare Sawa. I love those first 2.
Yeah, Sawa was great. Sun Wen, at her peak too, obviously just absurd. But it was cool to see Sawa win the World Cup at the end of her career. That was very cool. After promising start and then winning it for Japan when they did, that was very cool.
Oh, and to wrap things up, Oscar Romero had 17 appearances at Shanghai Shenhua, 4 goals, and he was loaned to Alaves.
There you go. Yeah, I knew he was loaned out, and it was all about the foreigner rule in China changing as that signing was going through. So all kinds of stuff. Good times. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for playing along on a Friday flashback. I don't know if we'll have a show on Monday or not. Would ask Jarrett, but he's not here. He had to deal with a sick child. You're not going to be local, right?
No, I will not be local for next week. I will be around, just not local. And I know that Tuesday we are off.
Yes.
But I will be accessible. But because of the holiday being on a Tuesday, that's the Roman calendar this year has put it on a Tuesday. So leaving town today to go with the boss down to go see the in-laws, and we will be back in Atlanta Wednesday. But I will be around and accessible.
So no show on Tuesday. Monday might be abbreviated, kind of. We'll see where the news and the silly season and the rumor mill and all of that take us. And we'll have something for you on Monday, even if it's just a short one, just to say hello. So stay tuned for that. No show Tuesday, and then we'll be back on a normal schedule Wednesday and beyond, because silly season does not stop for the holidays.
No.
That's where
Five
we're at.
stripes don't stop. Neither do silly season.
Nope, it doesn't. So with that said, have a great weekend, y'all. Mucha plata.
Mucha plata, y'all.